What's going on, you guys? So we had the weigh-in. We just got done with the ceremonial weigh-in just a little bit ago, and both of these guys, came in incredible shape for this fight. Canelo's looking ripped. Crawford looks freaking insane. I think we're in for a great fight. But they did the official weigh-in this morning, right? Today, or what we just saw was the ceremonial, right? That was for the fans. That was a spectacle. But when these guys weighed in earlier today, they both weighed in at 167.5 pounds, right? Now, I've done videos on the physique of Crawford, what I was expecting him to come in at, as far as tipping the scales. I was expecting him to come in the low to mid 160s. I was not expecting him to fill out pretty much to 168, right? I didn't think 167.5 was something he was going to do. And I thought if he was going to do it, he wasn't going to look completely ripped. I thought he was going to look a little bit softer, a little bit more pudgy, similar to a Jamel Charlo, but I was completely wrong. The dude looks like a full-fledged super middleweight, and he looks completely shredded. Like, completely shredded. Looked in better shape than Canelo Alvarez. If you were to look at the two of these guys, right, you could argue that Terence Crawford looks like the naturally bigger guy, looks like the natural 168 pounder, right? I was shocked. I'm not gonna lie. I was even shocked that Crawford came in that weight and looked that good. So it makes me, think this fight, a lot of people have talked about the punching power of Canelo Alvarez. A lot of people have talked about, this being too big of a jump for Terence Crawford, right? That, hey, you're putting on this size, you're putting on these pounds, it's gonna slow you down. You may not be as fast. You may fade later in the fight. That weight won't sustain you. And I don't think any of those things are gonna be true. I don't think the power of Canelo is going to be a factor in this fight. I don't think the natural weight of Canelo Alvarez and Crawford moving up is going to be a factor in this fight. What I'm honestly expecting is Terence Crawford to look like the stronger of the two tomorrow night. I'm not going to be surprised if he's the bigger of the two, and not necessarily going to be super surprised if he's the bigger puncher of the two. I was completely impressed by, how he looked on the scale and at the weigh-in. You could tell both of these guys rehydrated since this morning, and both of them still look ripped, right? For even Canelo, I haven't seen Canelo in this great of shape in the last few years. It's been a while since I've seen Canelo look this good on the scales. He just looked trimmed. He looked cut up. And yesterday, when they did the press conference, it was noticeable for me. Like, I noticed it. He came out in just a little white beater. I immediately thought, I'm like, oh, dang, he looks cut up for this fight. So, all in all, man, I think we're in for a great fight. At least, they came in, both of them came in ready for a great fight, right? I don't think the fight's going to go like people are expecting it to go, right? I've already said I got Crawford winning this fight. I'm not going to be surprised if he stops Canelo Alvarez. But what I think is going to be surprising for a lot of people is that this may look like an Earl Spence type of dominant performance from Terence Crawford. I'm really expecting him to beat the brakes off of Canelo. I'm being dead serious. I'm expecting him to just dog walk Canelo. And like I said, I'm not going to be surprised if he's the bigger of the two, the stronger of the two, and possibly even the bigger puncher of the two. The weight, the power of Canelo Alvarez, I don't think is going to play a factor in this fight. I really don't. And I know a lot of people that are picking Canelo are really just banking on those things to be the case for this fight. And I think they're going to be really shocked when they see none of those things are going to be, what they expected. Right? I don't even think this is what Canelo Alvarez is expected. I think Canelo is really thinking that this weight jump, for Crawford is going to be too much. I think he thinks that his power is going to be too much for Crawford, but not only Canelo, but his whole fan base is going to be in for a surprise tomorrow, right? But you got to give him some respect. He's getting in the ring with Terence Crawford. Canelo Alvarez isn't necessarily someone who, for us hardcore boxing fans, You know, he isn't someone who's given us the fights we really wanted to see when we wanted to see him, right? He may have fought the guys that we wanted to see him fight, but it may be on his own time. Right now is the perfect time for both of these guys to fight. And as a boxing fan, man, I'm super excited for this fight. Man, I cannot wait. I really cannot wait. But a lot of people are making a big deal of the size of Canelo Alvarez, right? I think a lot of people are underestimating and are just overlooking the fact that Terence Crawford is actually a big dude, right? A lot of people have been saying he had to put on this weight to get to 168. I don't think that's the case. I think this is a naturally big guy who's had to cut down a lot of weight in order to make all the weight classes he's made from 135 up to 154, right? He just didn't have to cut that much for this fight. I think he naturally is a guy who walks around from anywhere between 180 to 190. And he had over a year to get ready for this fight. Get adapted, get comfortable, you know, with the additional weight. He's not probably walking around naturally all the time at that. When he was at those lower weight classes, he was probably still in the gym, you know, not getting too big in between fights. But if he just eats a little bit more, he's naturally a bigger dude. And I think people, even when he fought at 154 against Madrimov, he came into the ring at 170 pounds. This isn't a little dude. So I think Canelo Alvarez, his whole fan base, is going to be in for a surprise tomorrow. He may be the bigger puncher. He may be the stronger of the two. He may be the bully in this fight. I think there might be times, you know, similar to, you know, the Errol Spence fight, where one of the defining moments early on in that fight was in the second round, and it wasn't the knockdown. It was when they were in the clinch and Crawford just pushed him off and he went back. A lot of people made a big deal of that because that was one of the beginning signs of, hey, the size, the strength, you know, how big Errol Spence isn't going to play a factor in this fight. I'm expecting something very similar, you know, to happen in the Canelo Alvarez fight very early. That lets Canelo know, hey, you're not stronger than me. You're not going to bully me. You know, I'm expecting an Errol Spence type performance, honestly. I think it's going to be a beatdown. And just like Errol Spence, a lot of people aren't realizing this or understanding this. They think I'm criticizing Canelo. But when I dropped a video about them being similar, they really are. They're both pressure come forward fighters, and they both set up their big overhand shots or their big overhand shot to the body the same exact way. They both depend on a double or triple jab to close the distance, and they throw their big overhand right to the head or to the body. But for Errol Spence, it was the big looping left hand up top or to the body. Very similar, right? Over the last, really you could say 5 to 10 years, Canelo Alvarez has really been a pressure come forward fighter. Obviously, having a good lead hand and educated feet are going to give those type of dudes problems. And we've seen it already. We've seen them struggle with dudes with good lead hands, boxing ability, and educated feet. But the only difference is this fight coming up is he's in there with a Terence Crawford, a guy who has extremely high boxing IQ, who's actually going to go to his body, who isn't going in there intimidated of him before the bell even rings. Crawford is going to win this fight. If he doesn't stop him, which I'm expecting him to anywhere between around 8 and 10, I think it's just going to be a complete beatdown. I think he's going to just beat the brakes off of him for 12 rounds straight. I'm expecting a very dominant performance from Terence Crawford. But, man, I'm excited. And the weigh-ins got me even more excited. But let me know what you guys think, man. What did you guys take away from today's, weigh-ins, if anything? Do you think the size, the punching power of Canelo Alvarez is going to win this fight for him? And do you think Terence Crawford, will fade? Or do you see Terence Crawford, today on the scales and think he's going to win this fight? The size, the added weight is going to, not be a factor in this fight at all. Let me know what you guys think. Hate, like, comment, subscribe.